D&D, the world's greatest role-playing game.
I've been playing for years now, and nothing gets me more excited than making a badass character or monster. And video games and anime provide the perfect inspiration for this. I mean, look at this stuff.
But then you look at the game, and what you get is something like 4 Elements Monk?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Seriously, what am I even supposed to do with this? 4 key points for Burning Hands? Come on!
We'll have to make some major changes around here.
Welcome to the table. My name is Ian, and this is Incendium D&D. Today, we're gonna hack Dungeons & Dragons. Item number, SCP-682. Object class, Keter. Special containment procedures. SCP-682 must be destroyed as soon as possible. At this time, no means available to SCP teams are capable of destroying SCP-682, only able to cause massive physical damage. SCP-682 should be contained within a 5 cubic meter chamber with 25 centimeter reinforced acid-resistant steel plate lining all inside surfaces. The containment chamber should be filled with hydrochloric acid until SCP-682 is submerged and incapacitated. Any attempts of SCP-682 to move, speak, or breach containment should be reacted to quickly and with full force as called for by the circumstances. Personnel are forbidden to speak to SCP-682 for fear of provoking a rage state. All unauthorized personnel attempting to communicate to SCP-682 will be restrained and removed by force. Hello everyone, my name is Ian from Incendium D&D, and welcome back to D&D Hacks, my homebrew series here on the channel. It's been a little while since the last entry, and for that I apologize, but I also appreciate those of you who've stuck around with us thus far. Things have been getting pretty busy, and I've been working on some other projects, but I think it's time we pick this up again. The last entry we made was a stat block for SCP-058, the Heart of Darkness. The bizarre nature of this bovine heart on legs was certainly one of my favorites, so check it out if you have the chance. For those of you who are new to the SCP universe in general, here's what you missed. If you're already familiar with it, skip to the timestamp on the screen now, or click it in the description or comments below. Dating back to 2007, the Creative Commons universe of the SCP Foundation catalogs a multitude of monsters, items, and phenomena which pose variable threats to human society. These anomalous objects are designated as SCPs and given a number which represents the order in which they were found. They can range from dangerous to adorable, and are classified in terms of difficulty to contain. Their powers consist of distorting reality, to indestructibility, to being the literal embodiment of happiness, and the secret global organization only known as the Foundation has taken up the daunting task of protecting our world from them by any means necessary. Think Illuminati, but more modern and scientific rather than mystic and arcane. Thousands of tragedies have been stopped thanks to their hard work, but as more and more SCPs are discovered, end-of-the-world scenarios are never far. Dungeons & Dragons is a TTRPG in which you can do anything. You work alongside your players to design a game for everyone to enjoy, and as the DM, you get to make the decisions on what kinds of NPCs, monsters, and gods appear in your world. SCPs make for some amazing inspiration. Generally, they fit best in the context of horror or mystery, but they can be comedic and tragic as well. The sheer anomalousness of these creatures leaves room for a whole new world of storytelling at the table. A statue that breaks your neck in the blink of an eye. An old man with a pocket dimension full of death traps, a hard-to-destroy reptile with a penchant for hatred. With a roster like this, it can be difficult to bring faithful adaptations from the SCP universe into our campaigns. But all that ends today, because we're going to be converting yet another SCP into 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. SCP-682 is a huge reptilian creature often dubbed the Unkillable Lizard. We don't have any exact dimensions on the creature, but generally speaking it is quadrupedal with sharp claws and a toothy maw.
with rows and rows of sharp teeth on the interior of its toothy maw. Deal with it. It's the perfect circumstance for the term.
Compared to other monsters we've covered in this series, the authors of SCP-682's article, Dr. Gears and Epic Fail Spy, say a lot while writing very little. We know that the creature has an incredible ability to regenerate damaged tissue at a sounding speed. We also know that it's fast, strong, and highly intelligent. It can talk when it wants to, but most of the time SCP-682's musings revolve around its hatred for any and all life, and its desire to kill Foundation personnel. What I find really interesting about this object, as do most fans of SCP-682, is its ability to adapt to outside stimuli. The Foundation has made it a top priority to kill SCP-682 as soon as possible, but all attempts have resulted in failure. Blunt force trauma, bullets, fire, acid, dismemberment, all of these things, they just don't seem to affect it for very long. Either it heals the damage done, or it adapts and becomes immune to the stimulus. Sometimes it can even use the stimulus back on the experimenters, resulting in massive loss of life at the facility. And if you're wondering why the Foundation doesn't use some of its more deadly SCPs to kill or destroy it, there's already an ongoing hunt to find something in containment to match this behemoth's ability. So far, nothing has worked. Before we get into the stat block, let me know what other SCPs I should make in D&D. We're working on Series 1 and 2 right now, and I'm taking most SCPs into consideration. Normally this is where I'd say the only caveat is that it can't be unkillable or godlike in nature, but we're doing SCP-682 right now, and I'm going to be breaking that rule today. So the question is, should we make the unkillable lizard killable? I've gone back and forth on this with my co-creator John, since he knows a lot more about D&D game design and balance than I do. How would the monster's mortality affect the narrative of the game? It might be satisfying to defeat a powerful foe for all time, but that betrays the creature's original design and limits future storytelling potential. On top of that, we can't look at a creature's stat block in a vacuum. We need context for the environment the players are in or the mission that they're on. What kind of game are you running? What story are you trying to tell here? Is it players against impossible odds and winning despite that? Or are you expecting them to die and this is their final mission? Making a monster immortal and unkillable might seem unfair out of context, but it is up to the dungeon master to create an environment where that's appropriate. The players might still have the option of defeating the creature, even if that doesn't mean that it ends up dead in the process. Neutralization doesn't always require termination. Higher level spells like imprisonment are especially useful here. This entry is different from all the other monsters I've done before. This one should remain unkillable, even if it can be neutralized for a time. And with all that out of the way, here's the stat block. To start, like all of our SCPs, SCP-682 will be an aberration. Because of the daunting nature of this creature, I've decided it should be huge, with a natural armor class of 19. 250 hit points will be plenty, even for a level 18 party, since this monster will be extremely survivable. A speed of 60 feet will get it anywhere it needs to go in order to catch up with its foes. For its main stats, the article talks about its speed, strength, and reflexes, so we'll be putting its highest numbers in strength, dexterity, and constitution. However, it is also highly intelligent and decently perceptive, so the only real dump stat we'll have is in charisma, which makes sense since its personality is almost entirely consumed by hatred. SCP-682 is known for its fortitude and mental resistance, so we'll throw in a bonus to Constitution and Wisdom saving throws as well. For skills, acrobatics, athletics, and intimidation, just for the hell of it. Now we get to make some interesting choices. In the article, SCP-682 is generally resistant to all manner of damage that might kill it, and if it's not resistant, it quickly regenerates. So how many resistances or immunities should we give it, and should it have any vulnerabilities? I decided on a compromise. SCP-682 is resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing, as well as lightning, necrotic, poison, radiant, and thunder. and has the indestructible feature. This feature reads, when SCP-682 takes any damage other than acid, it can use a reaction to become immune to that damage type for the next 24 hours. The SCP-682 cannot have more than 4 immunities at a time. With this reaction, I wanted to highlight its adaptability. In many of the experiment reports of the SCP Wiki, we see time after time how SCP-682 is exposed to lethal substances, high-grade weapons, except for nukes, obviously, and supposedly insta-kill SCP objects. Many of these initially have the desired effect, only for SCP-682 to either regenerate or become immune to the stimulus, in some cases turning it back on the experimenters. Giving SCP-682 the ability to gain up to 4 immunities, as well as change what immunities it has, will force the players to really think on their feet and work together. The one loophole to this is, of course, acid damage, because SCP-682 is contained in a facility that has it in a room filled with hydrochloric acid. It still survives this and is constantly regenerating even when submerged, but because it keeps it relatively contained anyway, I feel like it's a fine vulnerability to have, especially since almost nobody takes acid spells. To wrap up its characteristics, it has dark vision enhanced to 120 feet and speaks all languages. On to its actions. Given its survivability, I wanted to keep this fairly simple. SCP-682 is hungry, like really hungry. It will kill and consume anything and anyone that gets near it, so let's allow it to have multi-attack with a claw and a bite. On a hit by its claw, the target becomes grappled with a DC 20 to escape. If the target is still grappled and gets bitten, it will be swallowed. Swallow is a mechanic in D&D that we see in things like giant frogs and Tarrasques, and I was actually surprised to see how complicated it can get. The description of swallowed from these monsters reads, the swallowed target is blinded and restrained, and has total cover against attacks and other effects outside of the SCP-682 in this case, and takes 3d6 acid damage at the start of each of SCP-682's turns. If the SCP-682 takes 30 or more damage on a single turn from the creature inside it, the creature is regurgitated. The creature falls prone within 10 feet of the SCP-682. If the SCP-682 drops to 0 hit points and doesn't regenerate, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it and can escape from the corpse using 15 feet of movement, exiting prone. That's a lot to keep track of, but it is a challenge rating 18 monster, so good luck getting out of there. Finally, we come to its traits. I actually saved this for last because I put the most work into them, looking at abilities of other monsters and learning to design some unique ones. Oh, except we already talked about the indestructible reaction, so I'll be skipping that. I've stolen the regeneration ability from trolls and the like, and turned it up to 25 points per turn, whenever SCP-682 doesn't take acid damage. Seems reasonable, and gives the player a way to incapacitate the monster. Except in this next trait, unkillable. SCP-682 is immune to any spell or effect that would result in its instant death. If the SCP-682 is reduced to 0 hit points, it instead falls into a dormant state, becoming immune to all damage for 1d12 days, or however long you as the DM intended on lasting, after which it begins to regenerate all hit points within 1 minute. As I said earlier, the intention with this design is that SCP-682 should remain immortal. That's the narrative we're telling with this creature, but it doesn't mean that the encounter is unwinnable. Surviving and figuring out a way to contain this creature should be enough. Next, we have another reaction, hateful mimicry. When SCP-682 becomes subjected to a spell or magical effect, it can use its reaction to gain the feature or spell it is subjected to. Intelligence is its spellcasting ability, and its spell save DC is 17. Once SCP-682 uses the feature or casts the spell gained in this way, it loses it. If the feature or spell has yet to be used, SCP-682 can use this reaction again to replace the feature or spell gained in this way with a new one. There are multiple stories of another SCP object used against SCP-682 and resulting in catastrophe. Being highly intelligent and adaptable, the monster often figures out a way to turn the tables on its enemies, using their strength against them. The ability is limited to a reaction, thankfully, And I intentionally designed this to work both with spells and magical effects because, well, imagine how devastating it would be for the paladin to use its highest level divine smite to try and end the fight early, only for SCP-682 to turn around and smite the cleric in return. Be sure to take a picture of your players' faces when this happens. And that's it. Our unkillable lizard is complete. I imagine the encounter with this monster going something like this. Your party has been tracking the cult for some time now. They've always been one step ahead, their gathering places abandoned a few days before the ranger is able to track them down. All you find are piles of rotting meat and crumbled arcane altars. But finally, the cleric has divined their final location, and you hurry to catch up. You burst into the chamber just as the ritual is complete, and through the portal you can see a red sun and a desolate wasteland. A reptilian maw pokes its way through, then bursts into the room, killing and consuming the cultists one after another. "You foul bags of tissue," it growls as a head pops between its teeth. Your party jumps into action, hacking at it, slinging spells, praying for aid. Some of the attacks land, cutting deep into the creature's flesh, only to regenerate just as quickly. Others seem to have no effect at all. The wizard fires a beam of green energy, sloughing off its flesh. For a moment, the monster stumbles. Then it chuckles, and the same green ray fires from its jaws, slicing off the wizard's arm. The paladin smites it in retaliation, but the blade barely makes an impact. The reptile returns with a swipe of its claws, and a radiant light cracks the paladin's armor. This is going to be much harder than you anticipated. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this installment of D&D Hacks. I really appreciate the support I've gotten from you guys, and I want to say welcome to all the subscribers that we've been getting lately. It really means a lot to us. Be sure to check out the SCP Wiki article below. There are a lot of talented artists and authors on there, and they really deserve your attention more than I do. If you're looking for more like this, don't forget to let YouTube know by pressing like, subscribe, and ringing the notification bell. SCPs are often horrifying, inexplicable monsters with terrifying abilities. Maintaining the balance of the game while keeping true to their nature is a difficult challenge for any dungeon master, and that's why most people choose to keep these worlds separate. But I think they can still serve as great inspiration for encounters, and as long as we combine their unique features while weighing out the rest of the stat block, you and your party are guaranteed to have a great time against them. I hope you enjoyed my take on SCP-682, the Unkillable Lizard. Happy hunting, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.